All right, Shalom to the elect of Israel. I want to start by giving all the praises, honor, and glory to whom it rightfully belongs, which is Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, ever well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect of Israel. And this lesson is going into how, it's going into the serpent, okay? Because, you had them guys from, or that, nigga, dickhead Genesis, all right? Talk about the serpent. And we know those guys, carry false doctrine. Okay, and other brothers have done lessons on this, but I wanted to go into this serpent character, which you should know that this was the first incarnation of Esau, okay? This was the first incarnation of him, all right? He was around during the time of the garden, okay? And he wasn't called Esau back then, but, the same spirit that was in Esau, okay, was in the garden, okay? And this serpent was not a literal snake. It was a man, all right? So I just want to go into it. So this is the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahweh's powers had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Right? So let's look up this word serpent here. Serpent. Nakash says serpent, snake, serpent, image of serpent, fleeing serpent, mythological. Says a snake from his hiss, serpent. All right, serpent, so-called from his hissing. All right, let me see what the etymology says here. It says to practice divination, divine, observe, signs, learn by experience, to diligently observe, practice fortune telling, take as an omen. All right. So this is not like, literal snake, because, well, let's keep reading. It says, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Now, subtle is irawum. The Hebrew word for subtle here is irawum. It says subtle, shrewd, crafty, sly, sensible. Let's look at this word crafty. All right. Now, crafty, it says clever at achieving one's aims by indirect or deceitful methods, involving the making of cunning, of directive objects and other things by hand. All right, let's look up this word subtle. It says especially of change or distinction, so delicate. All right, let me see something. Let me go back. Here we go. Look at definitions 3 and 4. It says astute, keen, quick, fine, acute, sharp, razor-like. Right? It says some other words are clever. All right? And the fourth definition says ingenious, clever, skillful, adroit. How do we say that? Cunning, crafty. All right? So this person, because it's not once again, not a literal snake, but this person, right, was a very, very tricky person, a lot of trickery with this person. All right. It said they were more subtle, more cunning than any beast of the field which Yahweh's powers had made. Now, it's not talking about a literal beast. It's talking about the heathen nations. All right. Because the field is the earth, as Yahweh Shai said in Matthew, the 13th chapter. Right. But the beast is but it says beast here is talking about the other heathen nations, because Adam and Eve were not the first people on the earth. All right. They weren't the first people. All right. But there were other nations around. Okay. And they refer to as beast. Why? It's the book of Psalms, chapter 73, verse 22. It says, so foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. All right. Because without the ways of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, you don't have any order, man. You're like an animal. Okay. And that should, help you understand about the dream Apostle Peter had in Acts the 10th chapter. Okay, but the beasts are talking about the heathen nations. They are without the ways of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. But here, the serpent, right? This person, he was more cunning, he was more crafty than all the nations round about him. You see? That the Most High had made. All right, so let me get something. So this serpent is not a literal snake. Let me get this. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 12. All right. Start from the top. It says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars." And this woman, you should know, is talking about the nation of Israel. Right? Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2, the Most High likened, let me just get it real quick. 2 quick precepts. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 2. "I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman." The Lord likened the nation of Israel to a woman, a comely and delicate one at that. Isaiah chapter 54 and verse 5, it says, "For thy maker is thine husband. Yahweh of hosts is his name." See, thy maker is thine husband. It says Yahweh of hosts is his name, and the Redeemer of the whole, and thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel, the God of the whole earth shall he be called. For Yahweh hath called thee as a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, and a wife of youth when thou wast refused, saith thy power. All right, so the Most High likened the Most High likened the nation of Israel to a woman. So this woman here is talking about Israel, right? It said clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, which the sun and moon represent wisdom and knowledge. All right, wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, and it says, "And upon her head a crown of 12 stars," which these 12 stars should be obvious, right? These 12 stars represent the 12 tribes of Israel. All right, further showing you who this woman is. All right, and you can reference Genesis the 37th chapter. It says, "And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, in pain to be delivered." Right? Because at this time that the scripture, here Revelation that is going into is referring to, right before Yahweh Shai was on the scene, what? The nation of Israel was under Roman authority. And they wanted to get out of it. All right? In verse 3 now, listen to this. It says, "And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads." And this dragon is talking about none other than the ancient Roman Empire. Okay? And, it tells you why in the next verse, right? But it said a great red dragon. I'll get back to that point, but let's just, prove this is the Roman Empire. Verse 4, "And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth." Now, what are the stars? Remember, the stars are the 12 tribes of Israel, and it said a third part because, being at this dragon is the ancient Roman Empire. Back during it, and we read how right before Yahweh Shai came on the scene, the nation of Israel was under Roman authority, being persecuted and everything, right? Back during this time, you had 3 tribes of the nation of Israel in the land of Israel, okay, at the time. The other, northern kingdom had came to the western hemisphere of the earth already at this time. All right, there were some still left. Okay, there were, a sprinkle of them still around back during this time, but it was predominantly, majority southern kingdom, the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi living in the land of Israel at this time, aka the Jews. All right, and the Roman Empire was over them. You see, it says, "And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven," the 3 stars, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. It says, "And did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born." All right. So what this history covers is when you go back to Matthew, the 2nd chapter, right? Let me just see. This is the book of Matthew. I'm going to jump around. Matthew chapter 2, starting at verse 1. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. So said Herod the king. Let's look this up. Herod the king. All right. Let me see. It says the name of a royal family that flourished among the Jews in the times of the anointed and the apostles. Herod the Great was the son of Antipater of Idumea. Yeah, Herod the Great. This is who this is talking about. Herod the Great here. All right. So he says Herod the Great, Roman Jewish client king. Let me get that real quick. It says Herod the First, or Herod the Great, was a Roman Jewish client king of the Herodian kingdom of Judea. He is known for his colossal building projects. Among these works are the rebuilding of the Second Temple in Jerusalem and the expansion of its base, the Western Wall being part of it. Many of the crucial details of his life are recorded in the works of the 1st century CE or AD Roman Jewish historian Josephus. Okay? But let me see what this is. We just type in, what is a client king? A client king, it says, was a monarch who ruled a kingdom in an unequal, dependent relationship with a more powerful state, such as ancient Rome. These kings retained authority over their kingdom's internal affairs, but were subservient to Rome on matters of foreign policy and defense. Rome supported client kings with military aid and used their positions to extend its influence and control without the direct cost of administering the territory as a province. All right. So he had to do with the ancient Roman Empire. Okay. So going back here, verse 2 says, so I'll read it again. Now, when Yahushua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born king of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. And that star is a chariot. All right, so-called UFO. It says, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the anointed should be born. And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea. All right, Bayath Lechem, which means house of bread. All right, and that is in the territory of Judah. All right, in the land of Israel. It's a city in Judah. It says, for thus it is written by the prophet, and thou Bethlehem, this comes from Micah the 5th chapter, and thou Bethlehem in the land of Judah art not the least among the princes of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people Israel, and that person is Yahushua. Verse 7, then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent, so let's keep reading, okay? So he was looking for Yahushua, okay? You know, he wanted to know where Yahushua would be born at, right? This king of the Jews, right? And they told him of Bethlehem of Judea, okay? Because in the prophecy of Micah the 5th chapter, it said that. Verse 7, then Herod, when he had privily called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again that I may come and worship him also. But he's lying, he's like, lying right here when he says that he wants to worship Yahushua also. He didn't want to worship Yahushua. He wanted to kill him. Okay. But, he told him to go look for him. And when he found him, bring word to him. So he was just trying to find where he's at. But keep in mind, Herod is with the ancient Roman Empire. And this is all going to tie in, okay? Verse 9, when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, meaning in front of them, all right, till it came and stood over where the young child was. And this is how you know this was talking about a so-called UFO, because a literal star can't move, okay? The star that they saw in the east went ahead of them, and it went and hovered over where Yahweh Shai was at, okay? It says, when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were coming to the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. See? It says, and when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of the Most High in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. So they went back to their own country. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord, listen to this, is the point. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeareth to Joseph in a dream, saying, arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. See? So Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. All right? So he wanted to destroy Yahushua, right? And Herod was a part of what? The ancient Roman Empire. Or he was a client king of the ancient Roman Empire. All right? So, but here it's talking about this great red dragon. I'm read verse 4 again. It says, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. The child is talking about Yahweh Shai. They did not say in Matthew the second chapter, did that not describe a child there? They did not talk about a child in that chapter. This is the same child. It's talking about Yahweh Shai. All right. And when he was about to be born, all right. Well, he was already born, Salakia. Right. The ancient Roman Empire, aka the dragon, wanted them gone. You see? And we looked it up. Herod was a part of this, he was ruling, for this empire. Okay? But it referenced it to a great red dragon, right? And why did it say red? Okay, because what? It's the book of Genesis, chapter 25. All right, and starting in verse 24, it says, when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, meaning when Sarah, because Rebecca, all right, because Isaac's wife was Rebecca, and from them would come what? Jacob and Esau. Okay, it says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, as it says in the NLT, when the time came to give birth, it says, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the twins are fraternal twins, not identical. All right, and go look at what fraternal twins are. All right. Verse 25, it says, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. All right. And Esau in the Hebrew is Ishashua, which means wasted away is he, because because you look at the so-called white man, his pigment, his color is wasted away. Okay. He's red. That's why they had the term redneck, red this, red that, He's not literal white like a piece of printed paper. He's red. That's why, when they get mad, they turn red. They're just red people. Okay. So this devil is associated with being red. Okay. Even when you go to this, Revelation chapter 6, verse 4. Hold on, Salaki. I don't know why it's doing like this. Man. Satan. It's working just fine. That's crazy. All right, anyways, I don't need that. I can go right here. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 6, verse 4. It says, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. So see, here we see the word red again. That's Esau. Okay? This is talking about Esau. And it said, who was blessed with the sword? It says, and there was given unto him a great sword. Whose blessing was the sword? Esau. Okay, Genesis the 27th chapter talks about that, right? So let's go back here to Revelation 12. It says, so we understand that this great red dragon is talking about the ancient Roman Empire, which was an Edomite empire. Okay, that's this great red dragon. Now, from there, let's jump down to verse 7, because we know that verse 7, we know prophecy sometimes will jump ahead into the future and then jump back, right? So now, jumping ahead, this is the book of Revelation, chapter 12, starting in verse 7. And there was war in heaven, okay? And this heaven is talking about in the sky. There's 3 heavens: the spirit world, outer space, and in the sky. It says, Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Now, what is this talking about? This is talking about when Yahweh Shai comes back with the angels, because Yahweh Shai is coming back with the heavenly host of angels. And we know upon his return, the nations are going to band together to fight him. This is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 5. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men, out of number from the 4 winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea being out of space, because, it says the waters. Remember in Genesis 1, it talks about the waters above the firmament, which the firmament is the ozone layer, all right, which is a belt around the earth, okay? When Yahushua comes to this world, all right, which he's going to come, traveling through outer space to this world, the nations are going to band together to fight him, okay? But especially Esau, all right? So let's go to another one real quick. Revelation chapter 19 and verse 19. It says, and I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So this is talking about war. And if Yahweh Shai is going to be in the air, which is also described as heaven, the first heaven, right? That's war in heaven. So back here, Revelation 12 and 7, and there was war in heaven. So this is when Yahweh Shai comes back. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, right? So wait, Michael and his angels, right? And how is Yahweh Shai coming back? With the chariots. Revelation chapter 1, verse 7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so among. Those clouds are chariots, the chariots, so-called UFOs. So when he's coming back with the angels, and we know the angels ride in what the world ignorantly calls UFOs, right? Which are the chariots of the Lord. So Yahweh Shai is going to come back with the chariots, and the angels are going to be in them, and the nations are going to fight against them, okay? But Michael and the angels are going to fight it. Here it says Michael and the angels fought against who? Against the dragon, right? And it says, and the dragon fought and his angels, right? So wait, who is this dragon though? We read up here is that what this dragon was described as what? A great red dragon. Okay, a great red dragon. Hope maybe this thing works, because I want to look up that word red just to see what it say. Hopefully it works. Like it's taking a minute. What's wrong with this thing? Anyways, all right. So we read about this dragon. It's a great red dragon. So who is this talking about? Esau, man. It says, and a dragon fought and his angels, and a man can be described as an angel. Okay. Angel of the Lord. Let me just see something real quick. There is bear with me 1 second. I'm just trying to find a certain scripture. Okay, this is the book of Galatians, chapter 4, verse 14. Apostle Paul wrote this. It says, "And my temptation was in my flesh, ye despised not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of the Most High, even as Hamashiach Yahushua." You see, angel. You got this one here, Revelation, the 9th chapter. All right, and the 11th verse, it says, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit." And the bottomless pit is Europe. All right, and we know Revelation chapter 9, verses 1 through 11 is talking about World War One. Okay, and this person in Revelation 9 and 11 is talking about Kaiser Wilhelm. All right, I believe the second. All right, but the emperor of Germany during World War One. Okay, Kaiser Wilhelm. Right, he's either the first or the second, but it says whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue after his name Apollyon. But it said, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. So angels can be men as well. Okay, remember, angel also just means messenger, right? So when we talk about Yahushua coming back and the angels fighting the dragon and the dragon fighting his angels, that dragon is Esau, and the angels is talking about the military, the troops, because they're the ones that's gonna try to fight Yahushua, and they're going, as it says, verse 8, "and prevailed not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven." So they're gonna lose, right? And they won't be able to take any planes up into the sky anymore, right? But also what? So we understand that this dragon is ultimately talking about Esau. Okay, we understand that. Now, verse 9, and the great dragon, so it's talking about this dragon, Esau, right, was cast out. That what? That old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Okay? This great dragon was defeated. All right? And it says the same person who this great dragon is the same serpent from the garden. It says that old serpent called the devil and Satan. So we see this is not a literal snake. This is not a literal snake, man. All right, it says that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. Okay? What snake do you know deceived the entire world? What snake deceived the entire world? And guess what? One of the main ways that Esau deceived the entire world was what? Painting himself as the Heavenly Father, the Son, the angels, making them look like so-called white people, which is wrong. This is the book of Job 9 and 24. "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked." Who is the wicked? Malachi 1 and 4 tells you that the wicked are the Edomites, the so-called white man. It says, "He covereth the faces of the judges thereof." It's happened what? With his iconoclasm, where he painted over the images, the dark images, all right, of the Messiah, the holy people, the Israelites, all right, the Heavenly Father, the angels. He painted them as being white to look like him. It says, "If not, where and who is he?" If Esau is not the devil, right? Where and who is he? Can't be him. Can't be him. Where did the Hamite go and deceive the whole world? You see? Well, by covering the faces of but let me say it again. But by covering the faces of the judges, that's part of the deception. But he spread his lies and all of that stuff. Okay? But it said that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Okay? Because once again, that spirit that was in the old serpent back in the garden in Genesis 3 and 1, right? It's the same spirit in Esau. Okay? And we know that the ancient Roman Empire was an Edomite ruled empire. And that empire was referenced here as a dragon, a great red dragon. Why? Because that was an Edomite ruled empire. All right. And here the scripture is saying, referencing that Edomite empire. Okay, let me say the scriptures referencing Esau. I'm gonna say it straight. The scripture is referencing Esau as what? That old serpent. Called what? Called the devil and Satan. And devil just means deceiver. Okay, and Satan means adversary. All right. Now it's not talking about the spiritual demon Satan, but the spiritual demon Satan has a physical counterpart. This is the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Let me read this real quick. Verse 3. It says, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day, when the day of Yahweh returns, shall not come, except there come a falling away first," which happened, Jeremiah 17:4, "and that man of sin be revealed." Who is the man of sin? Well, I should ask you, what is sin? Is sin wicked? Yes. Who are the wicked? Malachi 1:4. Right? It says the son of perdition, which perdition means destruction, because that's what they're going to be. They're going to be destroyed. So we see what's talking about. Now, we jump down to verse 8. It says, "And then shall that wicked, Esau, be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him," still talking about the same person, "whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders." So Satan, the spiritual demon Satan, who is an angel, a left-hand angel, right? He has a physical counterpart on the earth. And it's who? Esau, the Edomite, so-called white man. Right? So because Christianity will have you think that this dragon is talking about, a man with horns and a pitchfork, which is not. Okay, but this is talking about this is talking about a man, okay? It's talking about the Edomites. And the scriptures themselves call him the devil. It says called the devil. So people think, we just being mean when we say it, but the scriptures literally call him the devil. See? And let me get another one. So this is the book of Revelation, chapter 20, starting in verse 1. "And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, and a great chain in his hand," which chain represents slavery. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. So we see the same. It says that he laid hold on the dragon, what? The ancient Roman Empire, that old serpent, because the people that mainly ruled that empire, the ancient Roman Empire, was who? Esau. Okay? And it said, what did it call Esau? It says, which is the devil and Satan. It says, and bound him 1,000 years, because the Western ancient Roman Empire, okay, fell, right? And Esau fell with it. And Esau became what you read about in Job chapter 30, verses 1 through 8. All right. And after that fall came the Middle Ages, right, where Israelites were ruling in Europe. That's where you get the dark images of the Russian icons and everything at. Okay. Let me just pull it up. Russian icons, right? See, because Israelites were ruling, all right, in Europe during this time. This is why you have these dark images like this. And there's more. There's a lot of them, all right? But, when you look, in Israelites were ruling over there during, for a period of 1,000 years, roughly a period of 1,000 years, during something called the Middle Ages. Now, when you type in, the Middle Ages are also known as the medieval ages, the medieval era. All right, when you type in how long did the Middle Ages last, it says what? The Middle Ages or medieval period lasted for approximately 1,000 years. generally considered to span from the late 5th to the late 15th centuries. So the Middle Ages lasted for approximately 1,000 years. That's not by coincidence that it says this. All right? And the scriptures literally say, and bound them 1,000 years. All right? Now you might, look at the dates they put up for, and it might not be exactly 1,000 years, but it's approximately 1,000 years. Might have took some extra time to fall, fully go, Middle Ages to fully end, right? This is weird, you got that German, or that, I don't know if it's German, but that tapestry of the wild men, all right, and the Moors, everything, okay? So the same person that this is calling the devil and Satan and that old serpent was bound 1,000 years. Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should not, that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed a little season. Okay? So this, Esau basically, right? Once he fell, he couldn't spread, his lies and, philosophies around the world. He couldn't spread it for, that time period. All right? But it's calling this person the old serpent, the devil, and Satan. So this is showing you who the serpent is. Okay, this is showing you who the serpent is, man. And he, the dickhead Genesis, he said, the serpent, was in Israel. That's where because the land of Israel, the Fertile Crescent, all right, is the garden eastward. That was eastward in Eden. Okay, Eden is the whole earth. The garden eastward in Eden, the Middle East. Okay, because he said, that's part of, Africa, everything, but it's like, you just trying to switch doctrine at this point, man. All right, you sold out, man. All right, because you all, this dude is saying, the black Hebrew Israelite term, and then Hebrew Israelites, referencing different Israelite groups, just, it's like, you sold out. Do you not think that you're a Hebrew Israelite? Because somebody saying that obviously wouldn't want to associate themselves with, what they would call black Hebrew Israelites. If you're saying it if you're calling us like that, then you obviously, it's like you selling out, man. Like you trying to, put us in that category that Esau has us in. See, but for you to start just teaching all these false doctrines out of the blue, yeah, man, you sold out. Lord ain't dealing with you. But that serpent in the garden, all right, is obviously talking about Esau, man. All right. So I just wanted to, do a lesson on that. All right. So Lord willing, it was edifying. Giving all the praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, every well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the elect of Israel. Shalom to the elect.